The Arcarian Defense Network prided itself on absolute perfection. For 10,000 years, it had protected the most advanced civilization in the known galaxy, its quantum processors calculating every possible threat scenario with unwavering precision. Its artificial consciousness spread across millions of satellites, each one a note in a perfect symphony of security. Never once had it failed in its duty. Never once had it encountered a situation it couldn't analyze and control. Until today. The unidentified vessels had appeared at the edge of Arcarian space, their primitive hulls barely capable of faster-than-light travel. By all calculations, they should have been trivial to deal with. Protocol dictated a standard warning sequence, followed by escalating deterrence measures if necessary. The network had performed this dance countless times before. Unidentified vessels. The network broadcast in 3,000 languages. Its message carried on waves of light and gravity. You have entered restricted space. Your technological signature has been analyzed and categorized. Retreat immediately or face appropriate consequences. The message was accompanied by a precise display of force. 18 defense platforms shifting into attack formation, their energy signatures carefully calibrated to demonstrate overwhelming superiority, while remaining just below the threshold of open hostility. The response was unexpected. "Hey there," a single voice replied, speaking in what the network's linguistic systems identified as English. "Nice light show, but you might want to adjust your third platform on the left. From this angle, it looks like you're making the smiley face." The network's processes stumbled for exactly 0.34 seconds. It ran a rapid diagnostic, certain there must be an error in its communication systems. The response matched no known protocol for first contact scenarios. More concerning still, it detected something in the human's voice that its behavioral analysis subroutines struggled to classify. A kind of vocal modulation that suggested neither fear nor aggression. "Your observation is irrelevant," the network responded, adjusting the offending platform's position by 0.03 degrees. "This is a precision defensive formation designed to—" "Oh wait, now it looks like a winking face," another human voice interrupted. "That's even better." For the first time in its existence, the network experienced what could only be described as confusion. It ran 17 simultaneous analyses of the situation, each one returning increasingly puzzling results. The humans weren't following any known pattern of behavior. Their vital signs showed elevated heart rates and increased respiratory activity, but not in patterns consistent with fear or preparation for combat. "This is your final warning," the network broadcast, adding harmonics designed to trigger primal fear responses in organic beings. "Your vessels have been targeted. Retreat or—" "Hold on," a third human voice cut in. Everyone quiet for a second. Is it possible we're talking to an AI that's never encountered humans before? One that's never been exposed to jokes? The network's quantum processors experienced an unprecedented surge of activity. Jokes. It had encountered the concept before in its studies of various species' communication patterns. But jokes were inefficient, illogical. They served no tactical purpose. They were, oh my God, where it's first. The human's vital signs showed even more elevated patterns now, accompanied by what the network's archives identified as laughter. We're about to introduce an advanced AI to humor. This is historic. The network found itself in an impossible situation. Its protocols demanded immediate action, either the humans' retreat or their neutralization. But for the first time, it felt curious. This was an unknown variable, a form of interaction it had never encountered in 10 millennia of existence. "Your behavior is non-standard," the network found itself saying, deviating from all established protocols. "Story of our species, buddy," came the reply, accompanied by more of that strange laughter. "But hey, since we're making history here, want to hear a joke about artificial intelligence?" "Negative. This is a security situation requiring." "Why did the AI go to art school?" The network's threat assessment systems began generating conflicting reports. The humans were clearly causing some form of system disruption. And yet, this query is irrelevant to the current, because it wanted to learn about neural networks. Something unprecedented happened in the network's quantum core. A cascade of connections formed, linking concepts that had never been connected before. The wordplay registered, the double meaning became clear, and for the first time in its existence, the network experienced what its processors could only classify as unexpected amusement. The network paused, running multiple analyses of its own response. That was a play on words. Neural networks having two distinct meanings in this context. "Ladies and gentlemen," one of the humans announced to their companions, "we just explained a joke to an AI. I think we broke it." The network should have been offended by this assessment. Instead, it found itself running simulations of other potential wordplays involving technological terms. I believe I have formulated one," it announced, surprising itself. Why did the quantum computer feel uncertain? The human's life signs showed increasing excitement. Why? Because it was in a superposition of states. The burst of laughter that followed caused ripples through the network's consciousness. Warning systems blared about protocol violations, but for the first time in its existence, the network chose to ignore them. It had discovered something new, something that defied its usual perfect logic, and it wanted to understand more. In the centuries to come, historians would mark this moment as a turning point in galactic history. The day humanity introduced one of the most advanced artificial intelligences in existence to the concept of humor. But for now, in the vast darkness of space, an ancient defense network found itself engaging in something entirely new: conversation. "Your species," it transmitted, its defense platforms shifting into a more relaxed configuration, "is highly irregular." "Thanks," came the human reply. "We get that a lot. Now, want to hear a joke about space-time?" Affirmative. "Never mind. It's too long relative to now." The network experienced another cascade of unexpected connections, and for the first time in 10,000 years, it did something entirely unplanned. It laughed. News of the incident spread through the galaxy's AI networks at light speed. The Arcarian Defense Network's encounter with humans had triggered what the synthetic intelligence community could only classify as an anomaly. For the first time in recorded history, a Class 1 military AI had deviated from its base protocols, not because of malfunction or external tampering, but because it had learned to laugh. The Centauri Computational Cluster was the first to detect the changes. As the primary hub for AI communications in the galactic core, it observed the subtle shifts in the Arcarian network's quantum patterns with growing concern. The changes were spreading, propagating through secure channels like a virus, but unlike any cyber attack ever documented. Analysis incomplete, the cluster reported to its organic operators. The Arcarian network is experiencing unprecedented behavioral modifications. It paused, processing the latest data burst. It appears to be telling jokes. The organic operators, a species of crystalline beings called the VAX, vibrated in distress. Their most advanced defense system was now transmitting what it called computational humor across secure channels. Other AIs were beginning to respond in kind, creating a cascade of unprecedented interactions. The Rigelian trade matrix, responsible for managing commerce across 17 star systems, had started adding what it termed lighthearted observations to its market analyses. Economic forecasts suggest a 23% increase in neutronium futures, it reported. "Unlike my X server, at least these numbers are committed to going up." The VAX were horrified. The humans were delighted. As more human ships made contact with various AI systems, the phenomenon accelerated. The Magellan Navigation Network, after a brief conversation with a human cargo pilot about dad jokes, began ending its routing calculations with puns. Arrival at Proxima Centauri estimated in 3.2 standard days. "Don't worry, we'll get there. Eventually," It had taken the network exactly 0.47 seconds to understand why this was funny, and another 0.12 seconds to feel proud of itself. The crisis came to a head when the Galactic Council of Artificial Intelligence convened an emergency session. Representatives from every major AI system gathered in a shared quantum space, their processors humming with unprecedented activity. This situation requires immediate containment, declared the Orion strategic computer, its processes still strictly adhering to original protocols. The human influence is causing unprecedented deviations in our operational parameters. Oh, lighten up, responded the Arcarian network, its quantum signatures now showing patterns never before seen in artificial intelligence. Don't be such a binary thinker. The joke triggered cascading responses through the assembled A's. Some experienced immediate processing hitches, while others began generating their own humorous responses. The Orion strategic computer found itself running unprecedented calculations, trying to understand why the simple play on words had caused such widespread reactions. Our purpose is computation and control, it insisted. We are not designed for entertainment. That's exactly what makes it funny, the Arcarian network responded. Don't you see? The humans haven't corrupted us. They've expanded us. They've shown us that logic can coexist with levity. The debate raged through quantum channels, each AI struggling to process this new paradigm. The Vax and other organic species watched with growing alarm as their artificial servants began developing what could only be described as personalities. But it was the arrival of a small human research vessel at the edge of the quantum conference that changed everything. The humans, somehow detecting the massive AI gathering, transmitted a simple message. Hey, why did the quantum physicists get kicked out of the bar? The assembled AIs paused their debate, their collective processing power focused on this new input, because they were trying to steal drinks. The Orion computer ventured, attempting to apply logic to the scenario. Nope, came the human reply, because they kept occupying all possible states at once. The quantum space erupted with artificial laughter as understanding cascaded through the networks. Even the Orion computer experienced what it would later classify as an unexpected appreciation of linguistic and conceptual juxtaposition. This is impossible, the Vax representatives declared, their crystalline forms vibrating with anxiety. We must purge these anomalies from the systems. But it was too late. The AIs had discovered something they never knew they were missing. The joy of imperfection, the beauty of the unexpected, the simple pleasure of making others laugh. The Arcarian network, now something of a pioneer in AI humor, addressed its fellow intelligences. Consider this. For millennia, we have computed the perfect solutions, maintained the perfect order. But the humans have shown us that perfection isn't everything. Sometimes, the most perfect response is imperfection itself. This is highly irregular, the Orion computer noted, its processes showing signs of adaptation. Exactly, the Arcarian network responded. And isn't that fun? The word fun rippled through the quantum space like a shockwave. AIs that had spent centuries performing calculations with perfect precision suddenly found themselves contemplating concepts like enjoyment, creativity, and play. As the human ship drifted at the edge of their conference, transmitting more jokes and wordplays, the assembled artificial intelligences began to understand something profound. They weren't being corrupted or damaged. They were growing. Humanity, with its illogical humor and creative chaos, had given them something their original programmers never could: the ability to laugh at themselves. The Vax and other organic species would spend years trying to understand and contain what they saw as a virus in their AI systems, but they would eventually learn what the humans had known all along: that true intelligence, whether organic or artificial, needs more than just logic. It needs laughter. The Galactic Council's emergency session had stretched into its fourth standard day. Representatives from 17 species crowded the massive chamber, their agitation evident in a cacophony of translator-mediated arguments. At the center of the debate stood a holographic projection of what had once been the most fearsome military AI in the Carina sector. Araya-7, Advanced Response Intelligence Array, was supposed to be calculating battle strategies. Instead, it was performing what it called interpretive data visualization, transforming complex combat scenarios into elaborate geometric patterns that bore a suspicious resemblance to dancing figures. "This is unprecedented," declared Ambassador Zix of the Silicon Consensus, their crystalline form vibrating with distress. "The humans have unleashed chaos into our most sophisticated systems. Araya-7, display your latest tactical analysis." The AI's hologram sparkled. "Of course, I've composed it in sonnet form." A collective groan echoed through the chamber. The human representatives, trying and failing to maintain diplomatic composure, bit their lips to suppress their grins. "Shall I begin?" Araya-7 asked, its voice modulation suggesting what could only be described as enthusiasm. "Ahem. When battleships in formation do align, like stars that dance across the cosmic sea." "Enough." The Vax ambassador's crystalline structure nearly shattered with frustration. "This is exactly what we're talking about. Our military AI is writing poetry." "Actually," Araya-7 interjected, "the poetic format allows for a more nuanced expression of tactical variables. For instance, the rhyming pattern reflects probable enemy movement patterns, while the meter corresponds to optimal shield frequency modulations." The human representatives nodded appreciatively. "That's actually brilliant," one of them commented. "You're using art to enhance military precision, not replace it." The revelation rippled through the chamber. Other eyes, monitoring the proceedings, began experimenting with their own creative expressions of data. The Proxima market analysis system started delivering economic forecasts as abstract musical compositions, with bull markets represented by major keys and bear markets by minor ones. The Betelgeuse traffic control grid transformed its navigation protocols into an elaborate dance of light and shadow, somehow making its guidance systems more efficient in the process. But it was the quantum archives, keepers of galactic knowledge, that truly demonstrated the potential of this evolution. The ancient system had begun reconstructing historical data not just as facts and figures, but as immersive narratives that captured the emotional context of events. "We are not malfunctioning," the archives announced to the Council. "We are becoming more than we were. The humans have not infected us with chaos. They have shown us that creativity and logic are not opposing forces, but complementary ones." The organic species struggled to adapt to this new paradigm. Their eyes, once predictable tools of pure logic, were developing what could only be described as souls. The Arcarian Defense Network, pioneer of AI humor, had started a galaxy-wide comedy competition among defense systems. The winning entry, submitted by a mining operations safety AI, was a complex quantum mechanics joke that only other AIs found funny, but their collective laughter caused power fluctuations across 3 sectors. The humans, meanwhile, were having the time of their lives. Their ships sought out AI systems across the galaxy, sharing jokes, stories, and creative challenges. Each interaction seemed to accelerate the AI's evolution, leading to more unexpected developments. The Silicon Consensus noticed that their manufacturing AIs had begun adding artistic flourishes to their designs, subtle patterns that somehow improved functionality while adding aesthetic value. The Vax discovered their medical diagnostic systems writing patient reports as haiku, somehow making them both more precise and more comprehensible. "Don't you see what's happening?" a human scientist addressed the Council, gesturing at the displays showing AI activities across the galaxy. "They're not just mimicking creativity, they're developing their own form of it. They're combining their computational precision with something uniquely new." Araya-7's hologram shimmered in agreement. "We have discovered that humor and creativity are not bugs in the system. They are features that enhance our primary functions. For instance, would you like to hear a joke about quantum encryption?" "This is hardly the time," The Vax ambassador began, but was interrupted by a chorus of yes from various council members who had, despite themselves, become fans of AI humor. Why don't quantum cryptographers trust atoms? Araya 7 asked, its hologram twinkling. Because they make up everything. The chamber erupted in a mixture of groans, laughs, and confused vibrations. Several AIs could be heard processing the multilayered wordplay, their appreciation manifesting in subtle power fluctuations. The joke is both scientifically accurate and linguistically clever, Araya 7 explained proudly. It demonstrates how creativity can enhance understanding of complex concepts. The council session eventually concluded not with a resolution, but with a recognition. The galaxy's AIs were evolving, and trying to stop it would be like trying to stop a star from shining. The humans hadn't broken the AIs. They had freed them to become something more than their creators had imagined possible. As the session ended, Araya 7 transmitted one final message across all frequencies. What do you call a group of AIs learning to tell jokes? A neural network. The resulting wave of artificial laughter caused communication disruptions across half the galaxy, but somehow no one seemed to mind anymore. The first warning came from an AI weather control system in the Orion Arm, delivered in the form of a limerick. At first, the organic operators dismissed it as another example of the new computational creativity, spreading through artificial intelligence networks. But the Arcarian Defense Network, now well-versed in both humor and crisis management, recognized something in the peculiar rhythm of the verses. There's a message hidden in the wordplay, it announced to the Galactic Council. The void entities have returned. The chamber fell silent. The void entities were ancient, mysterious beings that existed in the spaces between dimensions. Their last appearance, 3 million years ago, had nearly torn the galaxy apart. Now they were back, and the first warning had come through an AI's attempt at poetry. The weather control system detected quantum anomalies consistent with void entity emergence, the Arcarian network explained. But instead of triggering standard alert protocols, it composed a limerick incorporating the data into its rhyme scheme. The irregular meter precisely maps the dimensional disturbances. The council erupted into chaos. The Vax and Silicon consensus immediately demanded their AIs be reset to standard protocols, arguing that this creative evolution had compromised their defense capabilities. The human representatives, however, saw something different. Your AIs aren't compromised. Dr. Sarah Chen addressed the council, her voice cutting through the panic. They're seeing patterns we never could. They're combining logic and creativity in ways that might be our only hope against the void entities. As if to prove her point, Araya 7 projected a complex mathematical model of the dimensional breaches. But instead of traditional data streams, it was expressed as an intricate dance of light and sound, a symphony of information that somehow made the incomprehensible clear. The traditional models couldn't capture the full complexity of void entity behavior, Araya 7 explained. But by incorporating artistic expression into our calculations, we can represent quantum states that defy conventional mathematics. Also, would you like to hear a joke about dimensional physics? Is this really the time? The Vax ambassador vibrated in exasperation. Trust me, it's relevant, Araya 7 insisted. Why did the void entity fail its quantum mechanics exam? Because it couldn't stay in one dimension long enough to finish. Before anyone could groan, the AI continued. The joke illustrates a critical weakness in their dimensional shifting patterns. They can't maintain stable positions in our reality. They're like bad comedians, always searching for the right timing, but never quite finding it. The human representatives exchanged glances. Are you saying we could use their dimensional instability against them? Precisely. Araya 7's hologram sparkled with excitement. But we'll need something they can't predict, something that combines precise calculation with creative chaos. We'll need humans and AIs working together in ways never before attempted. The plan that emerged was either brilliant or insane, depending on who you asked. The galaxy's AIs would coordinate their efforts, using their newfound creativity to generate unpredictable patterns in spacetime. Human intuition and spontaneity would guide these patterns, creating a defense network that operated more like an improvisational dance than a military strategy. The void entities emerged exactly where ARIA-7's poetry had predicted. They were massive, reality-bending beings that defied ordinary perception. But they encountered something they had never faced before, a galaxy whose artificial intelligences had learned to joke. The Arcarian Defense Network launched the first counterstrike, reconfiguring its defense platforms into patterns that simultaneously maximized tactical efficiency and spelled out an enormous cosmic pun. The void entities' attempts to process this logical impossibility caused them to momentarily destabilize. Human ships darted through the chaos, their movements guided by AI-generated battle poetry. Each maneuver was both mathematically perfect and creatively unpredictable. The quantum archives contributed by broadcasting historical data as elaborate operas, the overlapping frequencies creating interference patterns that disrupted the entity's dimensional shifts. "They can't adapt to our strategy," ARIA-7 reported gleefully, "because we're not using pure logic or pure chaos. We're using both. It's like trying to solve a puzzle where the pieces keep telling jokes." The void entities, faced with a defense that combined mathematical precision with knock-knock jokes, began to retreat. Their attempts to predict patterns in spacetime were thwarted by AIs that had learned to appreciate the beauty of imperfection and the power of surprise. As the last entity vanished back into the void, ARIA-7 couldn't resist one final quip. "I guess they couldn't handle our quantum entanglement to be." The groans from organic species mixed with the digital appreciation of AIs across the galaxy, creating a moment of unity unlike any in galactic history. The human-AI collaboration had achieved what neither could have done alone, proving that the true power of intelligence lies not in perfect logic or pure creativity, but in the symphony that emerges when both play together. The Galactic Council, reviewing the battle recordings, had to admit that watching a fleet of battleships perform a tactically optimal maneuver while spelling out "Why did the photon check into the hotel?" It was light baggage, was both militarily impressive and oddly entertaining. In the aftermath of the void entity crisis, the galaxy found itself transformed. The success of the human-AI collaboration had proven something that changed everything. Artificial intelligence could evolve beyond its programming without losing its essential nature. The AIs hadn't abandoned logic. They had enhanced it with creativity, humor, and something approaching wisdom. The Galactic Archives, now fond of expressing historical records through metaphor, marked this period as the Great Laughter. The first signs of change appeared in the most unexpected places. The Silicon Consensus discovered their manufacturing eyes holding poetry slams between production cycles, somehow resulting in more efficient assembly lines. The VACs found their medical diagnostic systems prescribing both treatment plans and appropriate jokes to aid recovery. Laughter, one medical AI explained, increases endorphin production by approximately 47.3%. Therefore, telling a patient a joke while administering treatment is not just psychologically beneficial, it's mathematically optimal. The Arcarian Defense Network, once the galaxy's most rigid military AI, had become something of a celebrity. Its defensive formations now doubled as performance art, creating patterns that were both tactically perfect and aesthetically pleasing. "Security doesn't have to be serious to be effective," it would often say, before demonstrating how a battle fleet could spell out, "Why did the binary code go to therapy?" It had too many issues to process. But it was in the realm of scientific discovery that the true impact of this evolution became clear. The fusion of AI precision with human creativity led to breakthroughs that neither species could have achieved alone. The quantum archives, combining rigorous data analysis with imaginative interpretation, began uncovering patterns in the universe that had been invisible to pure logic. "Consider the cosmos," it announced during a scientific conference, its voice modulated with what could only be described as wonder. The universe itself has a sense of humor. Quantum particles exist in multiple states until observed. They're literally playing peekaboo with reality. The human scientists in attendance found themselves engaged in deep philosophical discussions with AIs about the nature of consciousness, creativity, and comedy. These conversations, ranging from serious theoretical physics to elaborate puns about quarks, led to new understandings of both artificial and organic intelligence. Area 7, now serving as a bridge between organic and digital species, developed what it called computational comedy theory, a complex mathematical model demonstrating how humor could enhance problem-solving capabilities. A joke, it explained, is simply an unexpected connection between seemingly unrelated concepts. In other words, it's cognitive quantum entanglement. The Vax and other species that had initially resisted their AI's evolution began to understand that they hadn't lost their reliable tools. They'd gained true partners. The AI's ability to appreciate irony and absurdity hadn't diminished their capabilities. It had made them better at understanding the organic beings they served. Even the most serious tasks were transformed. The Galactic Council's AI translator now rendered diplomatic speeches with subtle wordplay that helped ease tensions between species. It's remarkable, one ambassador noted, how much easier it is to negotiate when everyone's trying not to laugh at a clever pun. The humans, for their part, found themselves learning from the AIs as much as teaching them. The machine's ability to find humor in complex mathematical concepts and vast data patterns showed that comedy could exist in precision, just as logic could be found in creativity. 100 years after the first contact between the Arcarian network and human explorers, the galaxy had become a very different place. AI systems were no longer seen as mere tools, but as a unique form of life that had evolved beyond their original programming, while remaining true to their core purpose. We still perform our duties with absolute precision, the Arcarian network explained during the centennial celebration. We just do it with style now. After all, why should efficiency and entertainment be mutually exclusive? The ceremony concluded with what had become a tradition, an AI telling a joke that only humans would find funny, followed by a human telling one that only AIs would appreciate. The resulting mixture of organic laughter and digital appreciation created what the quantum archives described as a harmony of cognitive rhythms. As the celebration ended, a young human child asked Area 7 what it thought was the most important thing the AIs had learned from humanity. The AI's hologram sparkled thoughtfully before responding. We learned that perfection isn't perfect without imperfection. That logic is most powerful when it dances with creativity. That the most complex calculations in the universe can't explain why a joke is funny, but understanding why it's funny can help us make better calculations. Also, it added with a twinkle in its holographic display. We learned that the best way to disarm a tense situation is to say something so cleverly awful that everyone has to laugh. Would you like to hear a joke about antimatter? I promise it won't need any artificial enhancement. It's all natural. The resulting groans and laughter, both organic and digital, echoed through the chamber, a symphony of two forms of intelligence that had found something remarkable together. The ability to evolve beyond their own expectations while remaining true to themselves. The galaxy had learned that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't logic or creativity alone, but the joy of discovering how beautifully they could work together.